All right, hey guys, good morning. I hope you guys are doing well. And welcome to class, guys. Oh my goodness. I'm actually a little bit on time. But it's good to see everybody. I am getting a little bit situated here. I think my lighting's okay for the moment and things of that sort. And hopefully you can hear me, and we will check my settings just to make sure everything's okay. Yes, much better. And we'll optimize the video for the clip there to kind of get that going. Okay, perfect. Well, good morning, guys. We'll be starting today with the warm-up, and we'll give a few folks a few extra minutes to log in. I think we have almost everybody here today. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, we still have a few folks that still need to log in. But let's go ahead and meet up over at Canvas. And what we'll do is we're going to do the principles of design for day 8, bottom of the list here for our warm-up. And similarly, what we did yesterday, what I'm trying to do today and in the next few sessions is that I really want to kind of get us to think a little bit more and more critically, get more practice in on the deconstruction process. Basically how to deconstruct a design. And so I want to go over that process a little bit more and just kind of stretch it a little bit when it comes to our deconstruction process. Again, graphic designers are really good at this. I would say in my own personal journey as a designer starting out, one of the things I noticed, working at in the studio or in companies was that there was always this sort of awareness of work and almost kind of like a culture of always put up good work, always be aware of good work, always be familiar with good work to some degree, wherever you are, and it all starts with basically knowing what is good work, right? And how does that play out, and what are the principles of design for that? So I always think back a little bit about the culture, right? Whether it was a small, high integrity, high performance company like a Loungefly, which grew to be a multi-million-dollar company with a team of 5 practically, versus like a Disney, studio, Disney consumer product company, which basically does same methodologies and just does it to a greater scale. These are things that in both large mega companies and smaller, there was always this sense of high quality, a culture of excellence, this culture of knowing good work, being aware of good work, and breaking down what that good work is. And then after that was being able to sort of articulate and express why that work is good, or why you feel like this culture is 100%. So there was always, it's part of the culture. So I always like to start off with just understanding, well, how do we look at good work? How do we understand good work? And that always comes back to the principles of design. Okay. So let's, just as a quick run through, I want to make sure that we have Canvas up and running. So like I was saying, today's warm-up is going to be found on Canvas, and it'll be the discussion post. And we're going to do the exact same thing as we did yesterday, except we're going to write 6. We're going to write about the 6 principles of design happening in the poster, which was this propaganda poster during World War II. So you'll see that the principles are here with the red arrows, and we're going to use the method, and we're the James Schaefer writing method, and we're going to talk about the 6 principles of design happening in this image. Okay, so we'll just kind of break this down a little bit. So before writing anything, and we'll do this together as a class, we'll just kind of call out first what we see, right? We can't write something unless we see it. So let's just kind of go over what we had talked about a little bit yesterday, and we'll just go over that process. So if you kind of want to make a note in the chat section there, feel free, and you can kind of rewrite it or remodify it, totally fine. But let's go ahead and just kind of break this image down just a little bit. And I'll switch back to my keynote just to make sure that it's super noticeable. And Here it is here, okay? So like I said, we have this poster, which is a propaganda poster for the turn of the century, or in the late 40s, early 50s, around World War II. And we'll start off with the first thing I like to look at, which is sort of like the focal point. Like, what's the first thing that you see here, okay, in that poster? So I would say, and you can type this in the chat, and we can do that as sort of an interactive. So then let me go ahead and pull up my chat so that we can see that. So the first thing I would say is what is like the first thing that you notice in this particular image? I mean, that's nothing complicated, but ultimately, what is that first thing? Okay, so the first thing that you see in this image, what would it be? Okay, absolutely, Julian. Yeah, we see the woman, right? This woman, I guess I forget the term there, but basically we see this woman that is going into the workforce. Because this is a war propaganda poster for the War Production Coordinate Committee. So we see the female in this image, right? So the woman is the first thing that we see here. So that is your focal point, right? So that's our focal point. Now, if that's our focal point, if she is our focal point, obviously we'll indicate that in your write-up. So the question is like, what did the designer do to create a focal point? The answer is contrast. So in order to create a focus, an area of focus, you have to make it stand out. You have to create contrast, make it different from everything else in the poster. So there's only 3 types of contrast, according to the list here. There's 3 types of contrast, okay? There's contrasting sizes, big and small, excuse me. Contrasting shapes, right? So certain shapes are different than other shapes. And then there's contrasting size, shape, and colors, okay? So it could be 1, it could be 2, and it could be all 3. So I would say, what is the contrast that's being done to make the woman stand out as a focal point? Okay, we'll start with the contrast of size. Is there something bigger, something smaller? Or is the woman standing, or a better question is she standing out because she is bigger than all the rest? Yes or no? I think the answer is pretty obvious, right? The answer would be yes, right? She's larger than the text. Absolutely. Great job, guys. Yeah, so she's the biggest thing. So she's contrasted because the designer made her, the woman, bigger than all the other elements, which is a method that you can do in your designs, right? Because this stuff is universal, so we can do that. Okay, so if there's a contrast of size, that stands out. Now, let's go to the second one. Is there contrasting shapes? Okay, now when I say shapes, I'm even including the shape of the woman as well, the shape of the lettering, the shape of the speech blurb. Is there different shapes happening here, right? And if there is, what are those shapes? There's contrasting shapes. Okay, well, what are those shapes called? Or how would you describe those shapes? Okay. In other words, how would we describe that? What shape is contrasting the other shape? Well, the woman shape is contrasting another shape. And what would be that other shape, right? Because human beings, we're organic shapes and forms. We're not geometric, right? So then the organic form that this woman is drawn is different from something else. So what is she contrasting in shape? The speech bubble. Yeah, great job, Talia. She's organic compared to the text and the bubble. So the bubble is organic, very different shape, more round, you can say. And even different from the text, because even the lettering is like even the lettering is a mix between organic, slightly geometric, like the O and do. That's a perfect circle. There's some geometrics. The I and the T, those are geometric rectangles to make letters, right? The W is geometric at a horizontal. So basically these are, there's predominantly organic shapes standing out here, right? But it's also contrasting the letters and the bubbles, but the woman is contrasting the bubble and the woman is also contrasting even the lettering, okay? So we have that. Now the third one is color. So contrast of color. So is there a contrasting color happening in this? And I think the obvious answer is yes, but what are those colors that are creating the contrast? What is the designer doing to make her stand out from all the rest of this image, okay? What color is contrasting another color for it to stand out? And I would say the woman specifically, because going back to the focal point, if she's a focal point, the designer is contrasting her size. She's bigger than all the other elements. The shape, she's obviously organic compared to the bubble and the lettering, and the colors. The designer is also making this color very different, or the color is different from everything else, right? So her red headband, or her red headband, that's a contrast from the, compared to the contrasting what color? The red is different than another color. So that's how we determine, that's how we write it out. Her red headband is contrasting another color, which is the yellow background, right? And the blue bubble, or the blue speech bubble a little bit. So there's a little bit of that happening in there as well. So that's another thing that's going on in that too, okay? So we see that as a, like, super intentional, right? If we ever take, like, if you've ever taken a color theory class, you know, blue and yellows, these are like contrasting colors. They're different colors, but they're colors that are designed to stand out. So I'll see blue, I'll see sort of the orange tone of her skin, I'll see sort of the red headband. Compared to a yellow, they stand out, because any sort of bright color, a primary color, will stand out from a yellow. And if you've taken my class before, then we may have mentioned something called primary colors. And so primary colors are red, yellow, blue. And so these are prime. They're rooted from like a root word, prime, primero, first. They are the first colors before we mix any other colors. You cannot mix anything to get red, yellow, or blue. So they're primary colors, right? The first colors. And you could even say that that's symbolic, because, you know, it's saying that these primary colors are saying that, you know, women are number one, women are first, right? So even color selection and the type of colors used can be symbolic representations of something else, right? So we're seeing contrasting colors being used in a really major way. Okay, rewind. Okay, so we see contrast of size, shape, color. Let's talk about the balance, right? Because again, this is exactly how my brain is working, looking at any design. The next thing is the balance. Like, what is the balance? Is it symmetrical or is it asymmetrical balance? And for that, it's a very simple format. I basically look at it for like 2 seconds, and I just, in my head, I just break down, like, it's like in my head, I create like this sort of red outline. I put a line down the middle of it, and I just look at the left and I look at the right section, and I say, different? Yep. And if it is different, then automatically my brain says, oh, it's the left side is different than the right side. So like Francesca said, it is asymmetrical, right? And the reason, there's a lot of reasons, right? But I think there's an obvious one. The reason is because the woman is predominantly the majority of her figure is on the left-hand side versus the right-hand side. Or you could say the fist is on the right, and it's in the foreground in front, versus her face, which is on the left. You're basically saying how one side is different than the other. Doesn't matter which side it is, right? Or what you're calling out, as long as you're saying how they're different, okay? You could even say, I mean, that's the obvious, right? So she's standing out. You could even say the lettering is different on the left and on the right, obviously, because we have different shapes of letters for we can versus do it. And so that's the main idea. So it's asymmetrically balanced because we see primarily the woman portrayed on the left and her sort of like arm flexing on the right, not by accident, you know, intentional. So that's asymmetrically balanced. Then we kind of go back to the last three, which is proportion and scale. And we kind of like mentioned it in the contrasting sizes, right? So proportion and scale are kind of like, can go in the same level as like a contrast of size. So I can accept that. You can even mention that briefly. But you could say like, hey, the relationship of the sizes of all the elements, right? The bubble, the woman, the figure, those are all different sizes. The woman is obviously a scale larger than all the other elements, scale larger than the speech bubble, scale larger than the lettering. It's basically like, how does one part of the design is different in size versus the other? right? That's kind of like contrasting size. And then the last two, which is always a little bit tricky, is the harmony and the variety. So harmony is what do we see a lot of that is the same? And by a lot of, I mean, what elements, right, do we see a lot of? So in harmony, there's only so many elements: lines, shapes, brightness, values or shading, spacing, sizes, colors, textures. But in this design, what do we see a lot of, right? What kind of lines do we see? What kind of shapes do we mostly see happening in this design? Okay, and so there's a lot to say. So just identify one thing. So you can say certain types of lines are dominating, or I see a lot of this type of line. What is that line? Is it a lot of straight lines, a lot of curvy lines, a lot of circular lines? Okay. Do you see a lot of geometric or organic shapes, right? Yeah, we see a lot more curvy lines. So that's one element that's bringing it all together, right? So the designer's saying, you know what, to bring it all together, to make it look good, to make it look pleasing, to make it look visually interesting or aesthetic, a positive experience, we see more organic shapes. So that brings it all together, right? We see a lot of curved lines. That brings it all together. You almost kind of like take your brain and zoom in on and ask yourself, or the designer's asking yourself, even you guys ask yourself, like, oh, you know, what do I see a lot of here that I can bring more balance, more unity, to bring it together, to make it look put together and more unified. You can make decisions like, oh, I'm going to add more curved lines to my design. We can add more organic shapes to the design. Okay. So those are great examples. Colors, we could even say that there's certain colors that are being used. Going back to what I just said about primary colors, we could say like, oh, I see a lot of primary colors, right? The first types of colors, the red, the yellow, and the blue. There's a lot of primary colors happening here. That brings it together, right? There's really no more other colors besides like shades of red, shades of yellow, shades of blue. You could kind of argue white is a highlight of a sort, but I see a lot more red. I see a lot more yellow, and I see a lot more blue, and the designer's sticking to those three colors with a little bit of a highlight of white, right? And so, and yes, and the value or the brightnesses of the colors are the same. Great, that's great, Talia. So yeah, we see a lot more of the brightnesses of these colors. Like, yeah, they're not, the yellows are bright, yeah, but there is, they are kind of they're kind of toned or deep in the colors, or darkened in some ways, right? It's not so much a bright yellow as it is more sort of a darkened sort of yellow, a little bit of black mixed into it. So we see a lot of those colors being put into it. So these are like bold colors. We see a lot of these colors being used, right? And then if that's what's bringing it all together for harmony, then you have to kind of say, well, what's really different, right? And what is the variety, or what is some of the differences? And this is a good example because you could kind of argue the same thing for harmony is a variety. So you could say like, well, yes, there are organic lines or organic shapes happening in this sort of, and that's kind of bringing it all together. But really there's more, there is a variety of like some variety, right, of geometric shape that's contrasting the organic line. And you're like, well, there are some little things that are different. And you can say the letters, like the font is, it's not all organic, right? The O, the I, the T, the W, these are geometric shapes that make up the letters. So there's a little bit of geometric shapes happening in the design. You could even say that the little button that's on her collar, the woman's collar, that's a circle. That's almost a perfect geometric shape. The dots that are in her red headband, right? So you could say that, hey, there's a little bit of variety happening here, just to kind of make it interesting. Not everything looks the same, but there's a little bit of variety, maybe 10 or 20%, just a little bit of variety. And you can see some geometric shapes happening here. And yes, even the font counts as art elements in and of itself. So we even analyze the letters in the fonts in graphic design, okay? That's what makes graphic design, in my opinion, is that we introduce text and writing to say something. And so the text and the writing has to be included in the analysis, okay? And so that needs to be included. So yeah, style of her shape is different from the rest of the geometric poster. Yeah, I mean, we obviously see, you know, a lot more geometric shapes and form happening here in her figure, right? A lot more style happening in that versus the rest of the poster, which is a little bit more controlled, a little bit more simplified. She's more complex in form and shape, the way the designer sort of drew her. So there's complexity in the way that she's drawn. And I always have to slow it down a little bit because for those folks that maybe haven't taken like a drawing class, you know, then what happens typically is that, you know, when I look at her, I don't zoom in so much on her. I actually like do both a zoom in and a zoom out, for lack of a better word. So when I look at her, I kind of look at like the overall like outline of her portrait and trying to go around it as smoothly as possible. But when I look at her, I kind of look at the outline and of the overall shape, right? So like if I were to kind of trace her around, like she's a very complex organic shape. That's kind of what Talia's saying in that form. Her shape is different from the rest of the geometric poster. So when she means her shape, I would assume that she's meaning, or at least in my eye, I'm looking at her as like sort of like this red outline as you see in the picture. And I'm saying, wow, like just the outline of her being drawn is a very different form, organic shape than like the bubble, which is a little bit more simplified organic, if that makes sense. So the way that she's drawn in the outline is set up there, but then my brain switches and then I go, oh, I'm gonna examine her colors, I'm gonna examine her headband, her face, and all the details. So what designers kind of really do really well is they kind of flex out and flex in. They kind of zoom out and see everything as a whole, and then they zoom in. And sometimes there are like new designers that kind of say, well, I see the specifics. And part of it is also being able to see the whole thing as a whole. That's why I say, like, if you're 5 years old and you see it for the first time, what do you see? And we always look at the obvious. That's kind of the zoom out part. And then as we analyze the design, we zoom in. So when you look at anything graphic through your eyes as a graphic designer, you always want to start from the outside and kind of zoom in. What's the obvious that I notice? And I zoom in, and then I go down my principles list and I ask these 6 simple questions. What is the contrast? What is the focal point? You know, what is the balance? What is the proportion, harmony, and variety? And then as I break it all down, I'm deconstructing it, breaking it down, and I'm teaching myself what this designer did to create this image. And with that information, I can now bring it into my design, into my work, and literally get better just by looking at the work. So I'm literally critically thinking about all the images that I see. Okay. And so these are how like really good designers kind of look at the world. And I always get a couple of comments from students saying like, that's exhausting, you know? And it's like, well, yeah, I mean, we don't do it every minute of every hour of every day, right? But anytime I see something that looks cool and interesting, I go through this process that we just went through. And the more I like it, the more I kind of look at it more closely and look at the details and ask the questions of the art elements. And but at the same time, I'm not doing that for everything, because then I'll be so tired and exhausted at examining everything that it'll be very difficult. But after a while, after like, you know, a few months of doing this and practicing this, it almost seems like everything you looked at, you will always naturally break down the principles of design. So it is a discipline. It is a discipline in the life of a designer, and it shows up in lifestyle. So how does it show up in lifestyle? And I'll make a couple quick comments and we'll type it up. Go to art shows, go to websites, look at inspirational websites, art shows, photographs, music videos, certain movies with like types of art. there's so much design that's out there that typically like these are the things that people really do to see it. I think older generation like to go to the museums and experience it, which I think is super important because, you know, a monitor doesn't really give you the exact color, right? Monitors can get pretty close, but there's nothing like seeing like a Van Gogh or or a famous painting like up close and personal, because the colors actually do stand out, and like you get to see the scale and the size of it, because sometimes the sizing is kind of overwhelming. People always say the Mona Lisa they thought it was so big, and in the reality it's like the size of a piece of paper or smaller, and they're shocked because they're like, oh, I thought this thing was bigger, right? So there's that scaling aspect of it. So it shows up in a lot of different ways. I think for younger generations, in their Instagrams, they follow famous artists, famous designers, famous sort of blogs. I think like middle-aged designers, they kind of like subscribe to newsletters, and they get like little images and things like that, and they kind of do a mix of both. I think I do a little mix of both. I go to museums, but I also go online and I look at elements in between, and then somewhere in all that, I'm creating something by hand or digitally at some way, shape, or form. Okay, so it always happens at some level, at some shape or some form. Okay, so now you guys are going to get a chance to write about that. So we're gonna take a moment to, you know, break all the information that we learned. Now you're gonna type it up, and we're gonna post it up online. Okay, and as you're writing, think about the format, right? So first sentence: in this design or in this propaganda poster, there are 6 principles or various principles of design. Second sentence: the principles are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. List the 6, and then break down how contrast is being created, what is the focal point, what is the balance, say that it's asymmetrical, what is the harmony, what is the variety. So let's kind of stretch it a little bit more, and let's get the format down so that it's more collegiate, right? And if you can, as a little bonus, try to start with some different sentence sets. First, try to start your sentence differently. So you could say for your third sentence, first, we see this principle. Second, and then after that, second, we notice contrasting or focal point. Third, we notice this. In addition, there's this. Furthermore, there's that. And, as a result, we see these principles of design. So it's kind of like start each sentence differently to kind of make it sound more interesting, okay? And it's going to make the writing a lot more interesting, visual, and dynamic as well. Okay, so if that sounds good, you can give me a little thumbs up emoji. I just wanted to kind of go through the step-by-step process of analyzing, okay? And now I'm going to give you guys a few minutes to write it up. When you're done, if you could type in the chat, "I'm done," that would be great. We'll direct you to Photoshop today, and we will be opening up Photoshop and continuing a couple more exercises after that, okay? All right, guys, take a few minutes and let me know when you're done. Okay, guys, and give you guys about another 5 minutes there. If you need more time, let me know. Or if you're almost done typing, let me know. Just want to make sure that I'm giving you guys as much time to kind of develop your paragraphs as possible. They typically run for about 6 to 8 sentences on average when we're doing like a super in-depth analysis. Okay, so I want to encourage you guys to kind of stretch the writing just a little bit more to get more of the detail built into it. Okay, so keep stretching it, and then we'll get to see more as we're building it. Okay, and then of course let me know when you're done in the chat so we can move on to the next exercise. Okay, guys, I think we're coming close to next stages. So if you're continuing to write, please continue to do so. And if you almost have a couple sentences here and there, feel free. Like I always say, we can write forever when it comes to an analysis of, we'll put it this way, there have been books written about famous works of art, single pieces of works of art. So, I mean, there are books written on the Mona Lisa alone, right? So you can write one sentence, you can write a tweet, you can write a paragraph, an essay, or a book on a single piece of artwork. That's how deep this stuff is, because you can analyze the elements, the principles of design. You can talk about the why, why the artist or the designer, psychologically, why did they pick it? What were they thinking about? You can write, it goes even deeper into like what was happening in the world when it was created, that poster and that design. So it's almost like design is like a person. If you were born in a different time, you're going to be a different person because of all the influences around it, right? And people are going to think differently about people in a different era than today's era, right? So art is like, or design is one of those things where like it never stops talking to people, and it says different things at different times because people have different attitudes at different times in history. Does that kind of make sense? So we can write one book about about the Mona Lisa, or a famous work of art, from a 1950s perspective, and then fast forward to today and be like, oh, well, today this is what it means to most people. That's how dynamic this is, and that's what makes design really interesting, really cool, is that it changes throughout history, and some things are never change, and some things do, like perspectives and culture and how people see the culture. Okay, so if you're continuing to write, go ahead and finish up those sentences there. Okay, but was this helpful? And did this breakdown kind of help you a little bit in terms of like getting you to just see the work on a deeper level? If it did, you can give me a little thumbs up emoji. But I want to make sure that this is making sense and it was a little bit helpful for everybody just to go on a deeper level. Okay, again, this stuff is like it's like a lifestyle, and it takes time, right? You just don't change your eating habits overnight. You gotta keep eating new foods every day and keep reminding yourself why you do it. And so it becomes a habit through repetition. And being a designer is literally a lifestyle. And so you want to be able to get to a point that you can do it again, do it over again. And after this class is done, you definitely want to continue to look at art and kind of zoom back to today and this class and be like, oh, I wonder how my teacher would look at this. And what did my teacher teach me on how to look at this design? Oh, here are the principles of design. Okay, do I see it? Do I understand it? Critical thinking is probably one of the most important things that designers need. And that's probably one of the main differences between okay designers and really good ones. They can critically think and back up why they said that. So if you can walk your walk, which is you can design, which you will in this class, I also want to make sure that you guys can talk your talk. And that means that you can explain the artwork. And I know I sound like I'm lecturing, but at the end of the day, when you're designing for a client, okay, and let's just be real about this, okay, like #real talk, okay, let's say you do a piece of work or piece of design for a client and it's a lot of money, and they say, I'm not going to pay you that. I don't think it looks good. You can come in and say, well, you know what? I honestly think that as you can see, there's clear focal point here. There is asymmetrically balanced, which makes it visually interesting. Furthermore, we also notice that there's dynamic sets of colors, which adds a bit of, which is a variety, which is interesting to people. There is obviously harmony in the design, which making it look visually stimulating, right? And in addition to that, it's communicating your message according to the discussion that we had. And so if all these elements and all these principles are happening in your design, can you help me understand what is it that you don't see? Shut it down. So no one can play games with you when you can talk your talk. Does that make sense? So this is not like, oh, this is just nice. It's like, you know what? It could be the difference between a check and not getting paid and not getting paid. That's real world applicable this stuff is too. Okay. So, I always have to remind my students of that. It's like, if someone contests your design and they say, I hate it, it's terrible. It's like, well, you know what? I took the design class. Here's what the principles and the art says, and this is what my field describes as visually interesting. And can you explain to me why you don't like it? And if they say, well, it just doesn't look good to me, it's like, oh, I see, you're uneducated on that, and you don't want to rip them apart. But you're basically realizing that, like, you know what, this person doesn't even know what to look for, and I have to guide them, lead them into a place where they can understand. And if you can do that and teach them and help them understand, look, here are the principles, you have now successfully persuaded them, and now you saved yourself a headache by having to redo a design and lose money for redoing the work, because you never want to redo work without charging more money. So just because someone else doesn't like it doesn't mean that you get to redo the work for free. You come back and you say, this is what works, this is the design, here's why it works, and if you don't like it, you're gonna have to pay an additional fee to redo the artwork. Okay, unless you give me a reason why, a legitimate reason why this design is unsuccessful. You hired me for that, and this is why it is. Boom. So the writing helps you clear your thoughts and back up your argument, but ultimately it helps you talk your talk so that you don't get taken advantage of as well. Okay, does that make sense? If you can give me a little thumbs up emoji. Sorry to be a little bit blunt about it, but these are the things that, like, I honestly feel like designers need to be told early, so that they see the value. Because if it's like, well, I don't want to do it because I don't think it's valuable, it's like, okay, well, you're going to lose money eventually one day, and I would hate for you to do that or be taken advantage of in a work environment because someone realized that you didn't have it. Okay, just want to empower you guys, just want to make it stronger. Okay, all right, so that's enough for that. Let me go ahead and set you guys up, and let's talk a little bit about the our layers inside of a Photoshop. Now, I don't know if you got a chance to click onto the YouTube video link, but I want to share a little bit of some of the new features in Adobe Photoshop 2021. Hopefully you got to see that video, but before we embark on our creative stuff, which is cool because after exercises we get to do some creative stuff here, I wanted to show you guys really quick some of the new features of Adobe. It's about 5 minutes long, but these are basically some of the new features in this year's current program version of Adobe Photoshop. And I want to just kind of play it for you so you can take a look at it so that you're aware of it. And maybe we can apply this in the collage exercise or collage creative project that we're about to kick off. So yay. So let me show you some new stuff that you can take a look at. Again, I'm always telling my students every year, just, YouTube new features, or go to Adobe and look up, like, what are the new features so that you can always stay up to date. Every year there's new stuff. Let's take a look at what this year's new stuff is.
That's some of the biggest new features for Adobe Photoshop 2021, all in about 5 minutes. So let's get started. So I have my countryside image, go to Edit, down to Sky Replacement. You'll see this panel appear, give it a second to load, and then I'm going to go up here, click the drop down. And there's lots of presets we can use. You can see we have lots of different blue skies. There's many more that you'll see in a moment.
Oh, let me change the settings really quick for you guys so we can get a little bit more. That looks better.
And you can also add your own sky image by clicking the plus icon at the bottom of this panel. You can also adjust the shift edge to determine the strength of your sky over your image, and you can also adjust all of these other properties and see these change in real time. Photoshop then generates all of the layers used in case you would like to make further adjustments. Now this is a fun one. So I've opened up an image, go to Filter, down to Neural Filters. Let's just zoom in on the subject's face. And up here we have a couple of options that can be toggled on or off. So first we have skin smoothing. Style transfer is a lot of fun as well, so you'll definitely want to check that one out. I'm not entirely sure what this is, but down here you can click this icon for a handy before and after preview. Further down we have some beta filters, so we can start with Smart Portrait. We can select different options like gaze, and we can actually change the expression on the subject's face. You can see we're moving the eyes from right to left. This is mad stuff. And again, there's lots of sliders here that you can play around with and see those changes updated in real time. Everything can be toggled on or off, and the little blue dot at the bottom lists all of your filters, and then you can turn them off and on from here as well. Click OK when you're done. Now this is a great start, but you can see she's missing a bit of her finger. What we can do is just add a layer mask and then go and brush that back in from the original image on the layer below. Next we have a majestic lion. I'm going to add an adjustment layer with a solid color. We'll go with black so you can see the effect. I'm going to drag this underneath and select the top layer. I can then select subject from that properties panel and go to select down to select a mask. And at the top, you'll notice the new refine hair button. Click that, boom, there you go. So click OK when you're done. And with the selection made, we can click the layer mask icon and we've masked out the hair on our majestic lion. Okay, so next up, we're going to create a new layer, and I'm going to select the brush tool and draw an absolutely terrible pattern. I'm sure you'll do something much better than this. Okay, so pattern created, go to view, down to pattern preview. Get rid of annoying yet helpful pop-up, and now you can zoom out and see your pattern repeated. And then you can design on this in real time and see how everything comes together. Or like me here, you can just go completely bonkers. Oh look, I made a blizzard. And once you're done, you can select pattern preview from the menu again, and you can see your document at its actual size. Right, well first of all, I'm going to go to the square tool, click and hold. We now have a triangle tool. So once we've created our triangle or our shape, we can go to the property inspector and we have options for fill, stroke, stroke weight, stroke style, radius, the kind of things that you would typically find in Illustrator. And this makes working with shapes in Photoshop much easier and gives you a lot more flexibility. We also have some Pathfinder options to combine shapes together, so I could duplicate this layer, move these down, and then again, similarly to Illustrator, I can use these options to combine shapes together in different ways. I can also merge those two shapes and then still edit those properties. Okay, so if we go up to plugins, down to plugins panel, we can then click on discover plugins here, and this launches the Creative Cloud desktop app. From the marketplace, we can go to all plugins, select the apps we're interested in, and see a list of plugins. We can click on get and it installs them, and then they're ready to use. And then they'll all be nicely organized in this dedicated panel here. We can also go up to Window and down to the new option Version History, and you'll be able to find different versions of your Cloud Sync documents in this panel. Lastly, we have the Discover panel up here on the right, and from here we can get some hands-on tutorials, we can jump back, we get some quick actions that you can then use in Photoshop, and you can also see what's new as well as a few other resource links. And there we go, that wraps up the video. Like, comment, share and subscribe for more. Take care.
Okay, so some exciting stuff that we saw there, and there's so many new features that we'll be able to explore in the program, but I just kind of wanted to share that with you so we can take a look at it, okay? So a couple things, we're gonna talk a little bit about layers. So I'm just gonna show a quick preview of this little exercise, but I wanted to open up a little bit of space and talk really briefly about layers, and then we're going to do a quick little exercise, okay? And this should last about 5 minutes, and then we'll share the file, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about the collage a little bit after that, and then we'll definitely have some time to work on your exercise. So one of the things I want to definitely mention is that in terms of our goals, let me switch screens here. For today, we got a couple things that we want to work on. Okay, let me scroll up here. And those goals for today, obviously, is that we're going to be creating a career goals photo montage. Okay, so we're going to design a career goals photo montage using the Photoshop selection technique. So this is actually the thing we're going to do today. Okay, and we're going to design it based on career goals and images, which is going to be really awesome. But before we go into that, we got to take a moment to understand layer style or layer fundamentals and techniques, or what is a layer. Okay, so when you basically look at your program, as we open up Photoshop, we talked a little bit about the different sections that are visible in the program, right? For me, when I think about like the layers and the images and things like that, or my program, I kind of think about like three things, right, that are really important. Now, we talked about the toolbar, which is our left-hand side. That's obviously important because you need tools to create. But after that, I really need to have a really good understanding of how to use those tools, right? So selection tools and techniques, we talked about that. We played with those yesterday. And we got a little bit of an overview of how things operate with the program. Now we're going to do the layers. And the way I like to look at layers or on my program is that I kind of think of the program on the right section here of your screen as like the non-destructive part of the screen. I had a student tell me once, it's like, oh, how do you, when you passed your exam and got your certification for Photoshop, which is like an actual thing that you can actually do and pay for and be certified, and it's like great on your resume. I was like, okay, well, how did you understand the test so that you knew what to answer for your certificate? And he's like, oh, actually, to me, when I look at the program, I think of the right-hand side here as like the stuff that I can change, and it's not permanent, or the fancy word is non-destructive. It's reversible. So anything I do on this side, I'm good, right? I could always go back and change it on the right-hand side. So all the panels, the tools, the layers. So this right section is pretty much the stuff I could change, and I'm not scared if I make a change, okay? Because I could always like go back in time and reverse it and fix it and do all this cool stuff. So so he said, okay, this side here is the non-destructive stuff. Okay, cool. And then the upper section, or the upper left, was the non-destructive, or excuse me, the destructive side. It's permanent, right? So when I make an edit, it's permanent, it's set, very difficult to reverse. And so those are my option tools and bars typically, and that's kind of like in the menu portion of my program. So it's destructive and it's a permanent edit. I was like, okay, that's a good way of sort of breaking it down into those two, like kind of simple two things, right? Toolbar, permanent stuff, and flexible, changeable things on the right-hand side. Okay, and so I have that. Moving forward, we're going to look at layers today and understand what a layer is, okay? And layers is really, really powerful, right? It's basically this ability to do a bunch of different things on one image, but to kind of like separate the differences between the two, you gotta think about it in terms of like layers, okay? Which is like one thing on top of another and beneath that, right? To form a flat image. And anytime you wanna like turn a layer off and on, first thing is that we use the panel called the layers panel. So we'll be kind of living in this little area for the next week or so, or really throughout the end of the semester as we do the work on the program. But we really will be working with the layers panel, which is basically this tool here. It says layers on the upper left. We have all these different tools, right? But really at the heart of it, we have the name of the layer, which is considered the background layer. And then we have this little circle that is the eye that turns off and on, and it makes the layer visible and invisible, okay? So we use that a lot typically as professionals, like where are the layers and how they use it, okay? This is a great image to understand how a layer works. Anytime you see an image that's flat, in my head, I kind of think of it as a sandwich, where if you look over the sandwich, it looks like a sandwich flat. But if you look on it from the side, the sandwich, then basically you see like the bread, the lettuce, tomato, right? Turkey, if you're, protein heavy like me. You'll see everything in between it as you look at it from the side. The layers panel is kind of like that. It's kind of like the sandwich on the side where you're seeing all the different pieces, and each layer has its own unique sort of like rectangle and square with a little name next to it. And you can change the name, add to the name. There's a background layer, which is basically like the bottom of the layer, which is the flat piece. And then everything on top of that is just adding to the image. But when you see it on screen, it looks flat, okay? And so each layer is broken down like that. So in our head, in my head, it looks like that, typically, okay? So if you've never dealt with Photoshop, it's your first time dealing with it, layers is really powerful. It really makes this program what it is. And we're gonna get to a chance to explore that a little bit, okay? Now, again, if you have questions, type it in the chat. You can interrupt me if you want to unmute your mic and be like, hey, professor, I got a quick question. Go for it. You can unmute me as well. That's no problem at all. Okay. So we're going to actually do the quick little Photoshop layers exercise. The Learn panel has changed a little bit. So we're going to actually play with it, take a look at it, and you will share your link with me so that you can do it in real time. And I know you're alive over there on the other side doing the work. So that's going to be what we're going to do right now is this particular exercise. Okay, so I'm going to flip over to Photoshop. And okay, so we want to get everyone to open up the program. And we're going to basically we're going to try this exercise out. Okay, so I'm going to move this off to the side, close this over here for a second. And I'm going to go back and close this. And we're going to meet here, which is at the home screen. Okay. So when you open up Photoshop, what we're going to do is that we are going to click onto, and this is where all the windows are closed. We're actually going to click onto the, let me move that over here. Okay. We're going to click onto the home button. Okay. And when you click onto the home button, okay, it'll say like, welcome to Photoshop on the upper left-hand side. And you should see an image here in the center, which is saying, get to know Photoshop step by step and start tutorial. Okay. If you don't see it, let me know. Just want to make sure. But we're basically going to click on to home, and then we're going to go to a start tutorial. Okay, the reason we're doing this is because I always want students to know and be in control of their learning. Okay, so that they can actually set it up. Okay, so Mario, you don't see it at home. Are you clicking home and is it giving you that feature? Okay, we have a few folks. Do you have a learn button on the upper left-hand side there? Let's go ahead and try that instead. Okay, let's take a look. Okay, what about learn? Do you guys have a learn button that's visible? Let's start off actually with this part, okay? Does it say Adobe Photoshop 2021? Yeah, see it on Learn? Okay, found it. Okay, cool. So everyone's got that. So maybe my version is a little bit more beefed up. No worries. Okay, thanks guys. Okay, so under Learn, this is obviously where we're at. We want to always make sure that you're checking out the Learn part after class, every year, as you're building this stuff, okay? So the hands-on tutorials will be your best friends, okay? For two reasons. One, because it saves you money on taking a class every year. And two, they're like 3 minutes long. It's amazing. I love this. I mean, you could literally get caught up in techniques in 3 to 5 minutes. Adobe gets it, they understand it. They say, I need to know, just show me something in less than 5 minutes and you got my attention. So it's great, I love it. We're gonna go to the get to know layers part of it so that you can kind of see a little bit of what's happening there. So you will click on to get to know layers. Okay, and as we click on to get to know layers, we should see a discover window pop up on your screen. So there should be something that looks like a interface, an untitled, and then you should see something that says discover. And It's within the app, so that's good. So everyone sees, do you guys see my little Discover window here by any chance? I just want to make sure you see that. Okay, great. So it is within the program. And then we're basically going to start the tutorial, okay? So these are professionals, Adobe Designer Digital Imaging professionals that work for the company. They create these little exercises, okay? And the program builds in the graphics, so you actually get the file built into it. How cool is that? So it tells you how to set it up and how to understand the layers, okay? So what we're gonna do is that we're actually going to kind of go through the exercise. You can move your Discover window around, right? You can go in screen, you can go off screen. It's like 5 steps, okay? But it's saying here on the lower right, okay, click the eye icon to the left of the phonograph layer and set it up. Okay, some of it open in the browser. We could follow the browser too, or you could follow like my image as well. That's totally okay. It's probably detecting the PC version versus the Mac version. That's probably what it looks like. But you can turn the eye off and on in the left, okay? And it kind of mentions like they're like stacked panes of glass, and it reveals one layer on top of the other, okay? So as you do the exercises, it'll take you to the next step. And to display this layer on the canvas, a checkerboard represents a transparent pixel. So we're gonna do this exercise for about 5 minutes there. Okay, and as soon as we're done with that exercise, okay, then we will meet everybody on the opposite end there. So we got the phonograph here, that's set over there. Opt click the icon, the paragraph again to bring back the layer. You can see the background through the transparent layer. And kind of move into the next there, okay. Okay, and when you do the event or when you do the click, the next button will pop up and then it'll allow you to get to the next part there. So next one is selecting a layer lets you work through the layer, tip, set it up. So take about 5 minutes really quick to work on that. Okay, after that, we'll go ahead and we'll continue on to the next exercise there, okay? Main layer. Okay. And when you're done with the exercise, let me know, guys, in the chat. So then that way I can get a visual for it. Whoop. Okay. All right. So as soon as you guys are done, okay, what I would like for you guys to do is that you're going to share the exercise with me, and I'm going to give you a new email to do the share, okay? So we're gonna share that link with me, and then we're gonna switch it up just a little bit. Okay. So as you're finishing, okay, I noticed that there was a little bit of an email issue on my side. So we're going to click on to save here, and it's gonna be like right up there. I'll be looking out for the butterflies or the slight movement of the butterfly. But once you click onto that, then you should get a pop-up. Oh, there it went. Where'd it go? And we're gonna save as a cloud document to invite people, continue. And what you'll do here is you'll basically save it under your selection tools folder there. Okay. Click save. So that's the folder that we did yesterday. Okay. Hopefully my program's not gonna jam. And it's gonna be this email below, which is m_almena@mhs-hs.org. Okay. And then for message, you can call this the layers exercise. I'll put my little link here below too, so that you guys have it. But this will be a new email you'll share your link with, okay? The Real Honda one is having some issues, so we're gonna use this one instead because this one's gonna be set up proper. So go ahead and take a moment to do that, invite to edit, and I'll be right back in about 2 minutes, okay? All right, we'll see you guys in just a couple minutes. Okay. Hey guys, sorry for the interruption. We had a quick visit here in the lab, but just a couple of things here. So if there are issues with the exercises, with finding the file portion of it, don't worry about it. If you created it, then and you're having issues, and the PSD disappeared. I would say, Maria, if you can rerun it, that's fine. It only takes like 4 minutes to rerun the exercise. If it disappeared, it may have saved onto the computer. So that's another factor too. So we'll see what that looks like in a second, but let me just kind of get a quick visual for it. And if you've already shared it, great. I just wanted to kind of emphasize the new email, so that way there's no problems. And I'm just going to close this file here, close that file, and anything that's shared to me will basically come through on the other side. So this is what I will see on the opposite end of that email, and it'll basically say like, oh, okay, like this was just shared with me, and when I open it, it'll basically download it and pull it up onto the screen there and set it up. So probably what I'll do in this situation is, I want to make sure, I would normally get like an email too that indicates like so-and-so has shared the file with you, and it'll even give you like a rundown in terms of like levels and things like that. So we'll probably do for the next exercise is that we'll probably include your name, first name and last name, so that way I could see it with the shared with you, and then that way for the next file, and then we'll be able to go. But this is what you would technically see when someone shares a file, and it'll basically show your file and then who that person was that linked it over through the email, and it'll give you like a little bit of a visual for that. So this is just a rundown of how clouding works when you're sharing files, and it's pretty awesome for the most part when you see that. Okay, so thank you guys for sharing that. I appreciate it, and we just wanted to kind of get that going so that we know how it's done, where it goes, and then we'll format our files like accordingly. Okay, so that's that. Now let's talk a little bit about the next exercise, which is going to be our photo collage exercise. And that's going to be this one over here. So, so it's probably an older version. So then, Kalena, if it's didn't include the file, if it did not include the file, then don't. It was just the video. Okay. Then we'll try to create one and do the exercise. I mean, the exercise was just to see if you have the feature and if you could share through it. If it's a PC thing, then it might be that, but you have the 2021 version, so it might be just a difference between PC versus Mac, if that's the case. So it was just showing a video. We'll keep an eye out for that, but that's probably taking into account your system. That's probably what I'm thinking it might be, but I have to take a closer look at it just to see. But no matter, as long as you can create a document with this next exercise and share it with me, we'll be in good standing. So it's not going to be too much of a challenge there. Okay. So just wanted to kind of give you a heads up on that. Okay. Now, just as a quick recap, yesterday we talked a little bit about the selections. Okay. So we talked about rectangular marquee, quick selection tools. We talked about the lasso tool. We talked about the magic wand. We talked about pretty much the tool, saving and selecting the subject. These are the tools that are going to help us get to the next exercise, which is the career goals photo montage. Okay. So here's ultimately the objective. Okay. The objective is so that we can design a poster. Okay. And it's going to have pictures of your career goals, your personal goals, right? This thing is going to be like a vision board that's going to be of the things you want to do in your career, where you want to go, what kind of job you want to have, places maybe you want to travel to. It's literally that format, okay? And so the idea is that we're going to find images and you're going to make this collage that sort of has this construction of your vision of your future that you want, whether it's 5 years, 10 years, 20 years from now, doesn't matter, okay? These examples are actual student work samples, right? So we have different examples of the work. So this is one student who wants to be a pediatrician, and so this particular student was through like my high school class. So she wants to be a pediatrician. She took, the graphic design class for fun as a hobby, but she did a pretty good job. So one of her goals is to travel to like Japan, Rome, see the, all the great places of the world, and go to, obviously Paris, which is the Eiffel Tower, and become a pediatrician. So you see the little child's image there. And she made her image, it looks like it's symmetrical, but it is asymmetrical because what's on the left is different what's on the right. This student wants to be sort of like the big time business person, wants to travel the world, have all the fancy cars, gave me specifically what that car was, big house, travel the world, piles of cash, right? So that's, his goal. Again, this was like maybe like 10th grader level. Again, goals change, but the idea was to create a poster generally, right? This student wanted to also travel the world. They did more of like a personal goals photo montage. So they want to travel the world, go to Europe, go to Rome, ultimately also have a family, and be traveling with their family in the future. So I was like, okay, great. That's not a problem at all. This student's goal is to go to college, be the first to go to college. So you kind of see a little bit of the tassels there. She wants to be an illustrator. So she put up some illustrations of her work, and specifically she wants to be an illustrator and then move on into art therapy. So she actually wants to get a degree in art, and then also get her master's in art therapy and become sort of like an art therapist and use art as a way to help people through their emotions and their issues, which is known as art therapy. And so she wants to obviously have her own home, be financially successful, but ultimately do that in the area of the arts and education, right? So I thought that was great. And when we do break this down, then we're going to select images, okay? And you can find roughly like 6 to 8 images to kind of retrieve that. So we'll go through that process of finding images. And we're going to be using Google Cloud the Adobe Cloud to save our files, create the folders, and then basically share that design with me, okay? So we're going to go cloud on this one, and it's going to be really great. It's going to be awesome, and we're going to have a really fun time doing that, okay? And I'm going to kind of switch over to Canvas so that we can see a little bit of where the resources are for that, because that's under today's assignment. So I'm going to switch over to Canvas, and I'm going to show you where those files are going to be located. And they'll be under today's resource. And if we scroll down and go to Activity, Career Goals, Photo Montage, which is at the very, very bottom for day 8. Right over here. We're going to click onto that. And it'll show us the objective, sample, and a little history as to where the photo montage comes forward. Photo montage is really just a fancier word for collage. And a collage is basically a selection of different images, and they're sort of combined in a way that kind of tell a story. And there's a lot of great examples of different collages from famous designers and artists, and a lot of different websites and news publications and newspapers like to use collages as a way to kind of like tell a story, using images or limited images as well. So it's a really great technique to kind of like say something without having to like take somebody's photo, do all the legal stuff related to it. You can actually create really great art with very open source free stuff without having to like, you know, pay to take a photo, so to speak. So it's a really great method, and there's so much involved into it. You can cut out paper and make a collage, which, you know, I remember doing that as a kid. Now it's turned into digital. You can do combination of photographs of paper cutouts, bring it into Photoshop, cut it out in Photoshop. Like it's endless in how you can mix it. But in this one, we're gonna try to obviously use images from a website to kind of download it. Okay. There's a famous art photographer and visual artist named Edwin Antonio that I kind of put down here. He says that a photo montage is a vision, a dream that an artist has, which takes multiple images to create. So I thought that was a cool quote to kind of put that. It's kind of like bringing your dreams to life, or your visions of your future to life. And it's therapeutic, I would say, but it's also very proactive in terms of like what you want to create for your, and how you want to see your future. Graphic designer, collage artist Lena Jokas agrees. Photomontage gives you the opportunity to create works of art from anything that's on your mind. She says, I used to imagine that I was sitting on a different planet looking at the sun and earth side by side. With a digital photo collage, I can transfer a vision like that to the screen. Okay, so it's a powerful tool, and it's great to it's a great exercise to kind of see your vision. I know some of us are in fashion, right? So if you're doing fashion, this collages are a great way to kind of combine different art, or excuse me, different styles into fashion. So it could even be used to kind of envision your collection for the future, and put all these different styles and looks and photographs and inspirations onto this collage. And that's a really great way as well to kind of design collections and ideas and have a vision for it. So it's not only personal, it could be anything. It could be something, a fashion collection. It could be your future home, and you want to see all the designs and furnitures and lands and create a collage of everything that you want to include in your future home. It could be anything, really. Relationships, like what kind of places do you want to travel to, or what kind of demeanors or attitudes can you have for your relationships, and you can put images of things like that. So it is limitless. It is a really cool exercise, and it's an exercise not only in technique but also in personal development, if that makes sense. Okay, so that's kind of the why behind why I'm doing this exercise. It's helping you get better personally, but also building your technique and your design principles. Okay, now how is it graded? Okay, so there's basically an online rubric, but there's about 4 things I'm looking for specifically when it comes to this. Excuse me, 5. According to the rubric, right? And everyone's doing well, right? Using your time is on the left here. So use of class time, using your time wisely. I don't think there's any problem with that. The photos you select, so 7 to 8, I mentioned 6 to 8, so roughly 6 to 8 we'll say. Used, all different and focused. Okay, knowledge, you're putting attention to the construction to create a unified composition. That's basically, we'll talk about principles of design and how the principles are working together in your design. Spoiler alert, it's basically having a focal point at this point, focal point and a background image working. Application, edits project with a edits projects with a high degree of effectiveness. The photo blends smoothly. So we'll talk about that with our selection tool. And on time, all parameters of the assignment have been followed, and piece is ready on the due date. So we'll have that. I have a slight feeling that I'm probably going to shift the due date on this one, just because I want to give a little bit of time. So I might be pushing it out a day or 2. So not tomorrow, but possibly like Monday, Tuesday. So we'll talk about that because I also extended the due date for the principles of design Google slide. I want to give everyone a little bit more time to develop those, just so that we're not running behind, I guess, and we're using the time. So tomorrow's going to be definitely a good day for everyone to kind of put the work in and catch up. I also gave you an example of student work. So here's one, but you've already seen multiple ones. So the second link is just to give you like an example. Okay, so I gave you like one example of that in the image here. And that's, I think, the car one that shows up, which is fine. So focal point, background, obviously happening here, blends happening within the image, which is pretty cool. So we have that going on there. And then, of course, free high quality images to download your project. Now, this is where we want to get your pictures. Okay, so I'm going to give you this link right now. And this is going to be unsplash.com. And has anyone ever heard of Unsplash by any chance for images? If you have, maybe you can give me a little thumbs up. Okay, not so much. Well, Unsplash is really cool. It is basically the internet source of really free usable images. And you know, every few years, there's always like a new website that's doing something a little bit better. Gosh, there've been so many different images and things and sites throughout the years. It's crazy. It's hard to keep up sometimes, but I always like to talk to like college students because they always tell me, you know, there's this new thing, that new thing. So they always tell me what's up. But Unsplash is basically like high resolution photos that are free. And it's really great. Part of the Collage project that makes this thing awesome is having like a strong photo, strong images to kind of blend together. So for this one, you know, let's say, you know, your goal is to be a photographer or professional photographer. You just type in the thing or the element or the word that describes it, and then you'll get some really strong photos that are donated by professionals, and they're donating their images for free. And they believe that high quality images should be free and available. And when you select an image, you can click onto the image and it gives you sort of like a exploded view of it. So you can kind of see it up close and personal. And then on the lower left, it tells you like how many people liked it or looked at it, I should say. In the middle, how many people have downloaded it. So it gives you a little bit of data as to like, well, out of all the people that looked at it, maybe like a fraction have downloaded it. And it's been featured in like a editorial, which is, I guess, called In the Mist. And this is specifically in Bangkok. So this person located this photo on 2017 in Bangkok, Thailand, right? So I was like, cool, that's really nice. And his name is Jacob Owens. And so Jacob took this photo and he's doing it for two reasons. One, to help folks have really free quality images, but he's also doing this website so that he can promote his name so that people know who he is and possibly even hire him to take photos. So this is kind of the reason why people are participating in this website. They're giving free stuff so that they can get their name out there and develop a little bit of a following of their brand online. So I think it's a win-win, right? We get free stuff, we get to talk about Jacob in a class, and that's kind of the idea. He's getting free promotion and free advertising through this image. And who knows, maybe you can even send him a message and be like, hey Jacob, do you have any other photos coming out, you know, in the future about this and that, so I can keep an eye out for it? Yeah, I have this, take a look. So it really helps you spawn a dialogue, and that's really creative and that's really collaborative. And that's the world we're living in. We're living in a collaborative culture where we're sharing resources and materials. To download it, it's here on the upper right-hand side. So basically what you're gonna do is you're just gonna click the green button and say download for free. And then on the lower left, if you have Chrome, you're gonna notice that you have your file downloaded, okay? And it'll be on the lower left there. And let me bring my screen up just a little bit so you can see it. There it is. And you'll see it there, and that's your image. What I would say in this instance is that as soon as you download your image, we'll go ahead and we'll open it up in Photoshop and create a folder. Okay, so here's how you're going to do it, right? You're going to find 6 to 8 images of the thing that you want to create. Okay, download it. Then we're going to switch over to Photoshop. Okay, in Photoshop, we are then going to say, 1 second. We're going to, yeah, we'll create a new image for that actually, or we can actually open up a folder and say open that folder. I will actually say that we're going to open up these images. So we'll go to Cloud Documents. Okay. And before we open, let me go ahead and redirect. So prior to that, before we do anything, we're actually going to go to Cloud Documents in your home base for Photoshop. We're going to create a new folder. Okay. This folder will be your career collage, or you can call it Photomontage. But they're both one and the same, so you can pick one. Okay. You're going to hit save for that. Oh, names and characters, can't use that. All right, we'll just call that career Photomontage. Save. And on the right-hand side, you'll notice that there is a lovely new folder that has been, right here on the left. And if I double click that folder, then it'll basically say, hey, there's nothing in this folder, add things here to start filling up. And so now we can start opening up these images by going up to open. And under open, it's going to say, oh, okay, well, what folder do you want to save it under? I'm going to click on to Cloud Documents, Career Photomontage. There's nothing here to open per se. So I'm going to open it on my computer on the lower left. So on your computer, I'm going to open. And now Photoshop is looking for the picture that is in my downloads folder. So if you have a Mac, it should be on your downloads folder. If you have a PC, it'll probably be in the same folder unless you put it somewhere else. Okay. And there's Jacob's file under my downloads right up here. It says Jacob Owens, unsplash.jpg, today's date. And I'm going to open that file. Okay. And once that is open, okay, I can go to File, Save As, and I'll save these images into my Cloud document. And it'll basically say, oh, career photo montage. Yep. Jacob Owens Unsplash document. Yep, that's the image. I'm going to save that in there. So it's in the Cloud document. And I'm basically going to do that for most of my images here. And I have to clear out my computer because it's already giving me issues because of the scratch disk. All right, we're going to have to fix that for later, but we're going to do that for your 6 to 8 images. Okay. Now, once that's done, then basically what's going to happen is I'm going to now then create a new image. Okay. So I'm going to go to create new in that same folder, right? And under create new, I actually have a series of selections on the type of art that I want to create. Okay. And so there's on the top portion of Photoshop, you actually have a few set of pre-savings here. So on this bar, there's actually templates that are ready to go. And that's actually what's kind of cool about the program, is that it actually gives you all these cool little templates that you can start with, right? You can customize them below, but basically you can actually pick a template. So you can actually pick things like photo templates. And when I click onto photo templates, there are different preset sizes here. So there's things like default size, 7x5, 5x7, 3x2, 6x4, which if you've ever printed photos, these are like typical size of photos. There's templates that you can use too if you're trying to do mock-ups of photographs. So if you want to do like a photo of a design, you can put it into templates, which is really great about the program. So you can actually get mock things up into templates that are pre-ready to go. That's amazing. There's print templates available. So if I go to this particular tab, which is the print template, it gives me the most common template sizes. So letter, paper size, legal size, tabloid, A4s, in different resolutions. So the higher the resolution, the sharper image, the quality. And it even has more templates below that for printing. So I can do a template for glass bottle, cans, posters, tote bags. So for those folks that are in fashion, you can do fashion bags and things like that. Clothing, dyed in patterns. So when you click onto these templates, they open up and you can start adding your work into that too, which is kind of cool. So templates are really helpful. And just to kind of just go really quick down the list, there's art and illustration for our artists. So if you like art, you can put in your art into the template as well. And it has different sizes, 18x24, postcard, web sizes, excuse me. We even have web templates. So if you're making a website, templates available for web, the most common ones on the top, templates which are presentation ready for your clients below, even cell phone, mobile, amazing stuff. So what phone do you have? I have iPhone 10, 876, the iPhone 876 Plus, the iPad Pro, and it even gives you presentation templates for mobile websites as well. So if somebody wants you to design them a mobile app, those templates are ready to go, or an Instagram post ready to go, and film and video as well. Different templates for YouTube videos, for videos. I mean, Photoshop really wants to make life so easy for you that they give you the templates ready to go, okay? For us, what we're gonna do here is actually go to the print template, okay? And under print, okay, so I'll make a note of that. We're gonna click onto the print template, and we should see on the upper left the letter size, which is here, okay? When you click onto it, before you click the create button, we're gonna look on the right-hand side, and we're gonna notice some things that are set and preset. It gives us an untitled name, which is where we're gonna type our name in just a moment. It tells me the width and the height of the paper, okay? The orientation, do we want the paper to be vertical or horizontal? The resolution, how many pixels per square inch for high quality resolution? Do I want a white background? And advanced color options, right? What kind of color do we want it to translate to? So there's a lot going on here. What we really want to worry about is just the untitled -1, because we're going to type in your name and the name of the project, okay? So we're going to do that right now. I'm going to go ahead and type in here. Okay, you're going to type in your first and last name, and we'll call this career collage or career photo montage. Okay, that is going to be our resolution for the project. Okay, and 8.5 by 11 vertical orientation is fine. That should be no problem. If you want to make it horizontal, then that's totally okay. So don't worry about that. If it didn't have that window after you click the create button, you have to type in the name before you click the create button. So, but that's okay. You can still go file save as and still enter the name. So there's always more than 2 ways, 3 ways to do something in the program. But normally before you hit create, you always want to type in a name. Or if you forget, that's okay. When we go file save as, kind of like what we did yesterday. You type in the name, first name, last name under the file save as. So if you've opened it, Myra, you can just go file save as right now. File menu on the upper left-hand side of your program. Go to save as, and you're going to type in your first, last name, career collage, push save. Did the same thing. You can do it in the beginning, you could do it during your work on the project. So Photoshop has really created a lot of ways to kind of recover any situation in every situation. Okay, we're gonna hit the create button, and you're literally ready to start creating your design. Okay, now how do I add my picture and set that up? Okay, well, before doing that, you're going to share your file with your teacher. So the first thing we're going to do, because I want to see your progress and how you're doing in real time, is that you're going to hit that lovely share button, and you're going to basically type in my email again. Okay, so you're going to do that. Okay, it takes a couple of minutes there to set it up. Or a couple seconds, I should say. It should pop up. It better pop up. Continue. Okay. And it's acting crazy, but no worries. So basically, you're going to, it's because it's doing a saved version, excuse me, because it needs to save it. So I'll save it under File Save As Cloud Document. Okay, so you'll get a chance to do that. So I'll spare everyone a little bit of time. And then you'll basically enter my email, okay? Which is, again, the same email as you did before, m_almena@mhshs.org. So the same email that you did before, you'll type that in there. It's in the chat as well. So make sure you type that in there, /hs.org. That way I can see your file and how you're doing. So I can track your progress. And if you have a question, it's great. I can open it and make changes to it and show you on video how to adjust it, which is great. So we'll have the power to do that. And once that's been established, okay, then we can basically start to place some images in here, okay? And so whenever you want to sort of add an image into your file, I'm going to go ahead and actually move this over to the other setting here. I'm going to stop my sharing. I want to move it to my smaller monitor, so then that way you can kind of see the whole window instead of the other file there. Okay, I'm going to go to desktop 2. Here we go, desktop 1. Share the whole desktop. Perfect. Okay, so to place an image, it's really cool. You'll basically go up to File, your File menu, and you'll scroll down to Place an Image or Place Embedded Image. Okay, when you click on to Place Embed, then you'll select your image that you saved into your folder. Okay, so whatever you saved into your career photo montage, then you can click onto it and save. Now, because I'm having a memory issue on my computer, I wasn't able to save that first graphic, okay? But let's just assume that it is in the cloud and it's there, great. I'm actually gonna you'll click onto that image and add it in, right? But obviously because my memory is having some issues, I'm gonna just basically pull it from my computer download, which you can also do if you download it on your computer. Okay, I'm just gonna add Jacob Owens. I'm gonna place the image there. And it doesn't wanna do it because the scratch discs are full. Okay, so a little bit of an issue there, but that's okay. I'm gonna have to clear it out again to set it up. Okay, well, we're gonna basically place that image in there. And I'm gonna try to see if I can do a smaller image, maybe a screenshot. It better. Oh, really? Okay, so essentially, okay, it should have a placed image in there, okay? Oh, I know what I can do. Here's what I can do. See if I can place that image. Okay, scratch image. So, all right, and rewind. So that's essentially what we're gonna do. Okay, guys, I apologize for that, that particular image, but basically as we place the image, okay, we're going to start to mask using the selection tools, some of those tools and items, okay? So we're basically going to add those images and use our selection tools and techniques to create our collage and photo montage. So I'm going to try to hack into the system here. So I'm going to pretend that we have some of those images already set in there. I'm going to go to my getting to know layers. And I'm going to open up that tutorial. I think click onto the eye and to the left. Let's do that. I'm going to close that. And we're going to go into the layers portion. All right. Okay. Gave me enough power to do one project. So awesome. Okay. So that's basically how we're going to do it. Okay. I'm actually going to pause the share there. But we're going to add your images. Okay. And when we add those images, we're going to use the techniques that we learned inside of our exercises yesterday, the selection tools. Okay. So let's go ahead and let me expand that really quick. Let me stop the share. Let's expand. Okay, and let's close this. No, I didn't want to close that. Okay. Open up the Photoshop slides. Okay, almost done here, so we can set that up. Here we go. All right, I'm definitely going to resolve that today. Okay, so we're going to use the selection tools and techniques that we kind of worked on yesterday. Okay, so let's take a look here. It's not showing up. Okay. Let's do this. All right, we're going to troubleshoot in real time. Close Photoshop, close that. We'll close that. Okay, new share. There we go. A little bit better. Okay, now that should fix that. So what we're going to do here is that we're basically going to use our selection tools and techniques. Okay, so rectangular marquee tool, the lasso tool, the quick selection tool. So all these tools that we basically learned about yesterday, we're going to start applying some of those techniques into your exercise. Okay, so if you haven't done that, or let's say you haven't had a chance to practice it, I would say run through those exercises first. Okay, because you want to know how to do it before we can apply it to the photograph of choice. But essentially what we did was that we want to run these techniques, save and load selection, your magic wand, the lasso tool we were saying, and we want to apply it into your design so that we can create our collage, okay? But the steps are pretty straightforward, right? We want to first select your images. So right now you're basically going to find, 6 to 8 images of things you want to accomplish, your goals, okay? And we're going to find that on unsplash.com, which is on Canvas, okay? So that's going to be on unsplash.com, okay? Once you have it on unsplash.com, you will open the file in Photoshop, okay? Save it as a cloud file. And once you save it as a cloud file, then you will create a new document, okay, with those first to 8 images. and you're basically going to create a new document and call that first name, last name, career collage or career goals, photo montage, whatever you want to call it. Okay. And then basically apply the tools and the masking for the technique. Okay. In terms of setting it up, that's how you set it up. In the design side, I would say the first thing you want to do is to create a focal point. So the first thing you want to do, and once you get all your images in and masked out the pieces, the first thing is create a focal point. What is the first thing you want people to see in that design? And that will typically be the biggest, largest element on your design. Okay, so that's literally going to be the first part of it. So you have to make a decision and then set that up for that particular format. Okay, so you want to make sure that you select an image that is your focal point, right? So if it's the car, or if it's the building, or if it's the person in the drawing, you want to make sure that you have that ready to go, and that's your focal point. Every other image behind that is basically literally going to be a background of that image. So one thing is going to stand out in the front, all the other images are going to work in the background, right? And we'll talk a little bit more as we see those first designs of how they all blend and combine into one. Okay, I know I hit you a little bit with a lot, but I'm trying to work with what I have with some of the technical issues that are going on. But does that make sense? And will that, and if it does, if you give me a little bit of a thumbs up emoji, that'd be super helpful. Again, we'll have the video recording today. You can always go back to this recording and review it, stop it, pause it, play it, and go in that direction. So we'll have that available to you. Okay. I think what I would like to do is we'll extend the due date on that one. So we'll connect back Monday and review the design. I feel like maybe Monday at the end of class slightly might be a good time, or midway through class on Monday will work for due dates. That will give you guys tomorrow and the weekend to work on it, and a little bit of time in class to kind of review it. If that works for you guys, you can give me a little thumbs up emoji. That would be awesome. But I just want to make sure if that works. So kind of setting it up for Monday, like mid in the morning, we'll kind of review it and set it up, and we'll go that direction. Okay. For the principles of design, I also extended our Google slide presentation, not to tomorrow, but next Friday. So it actually gives you another 7 days to work on it. Okay. If that's going to work for you guys, I know a couple of us have already turned it in, but if that works for you guys, you can give me a little thumbs up emoji. That's going to give you more time to work on your slides and write those 6 to 8 sentence paragraph structures for it. Okay. I'm noticing that not everyone is there yet in terms of writing 6 to 8 sentence structure. So tomorrow we'll do that as a warm-up Monday, we'll do that as a warm-up question. But the way you wrote your warm-up today, the longer paragraph, you want your slides to be the same way. So I'm going to give you guys at least another week to at least write that down. Okay. If you time it out, if you do one per day, one today, one tomorrow, Saturday, Sunday, you can get everything done by next Friday, okay, and complete. Don't wait till the last minute, because you saw there's a lot of writing involved and it could take a long time to do it, okay? So use your time wisely, use your time effectively, right? Put in a little bit of 30 minutes to do one per day. You should be caught up, set, ready to go. Or you can do 2 in an hour. You know, you get it done in 2 or 3 days over the weekend if that helps out as well, okay? But for the career goals photo montage, this should 6 to 8 images. You know, should not take too long to find, download, and then open it and bring it into your program, and as an 8.5 by 11 letter size sheet. Okay. All right, sounds good. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. I'm going to, I'll still be online for you guys. So if you have any questions, issues, or concerns, I'll be online until 12 o'clock. Now would be the time to start looking for your images. So please begin to look for your images on unsplash.com so that you can pick out your formats there. Okay. If Kalena, stick around for a couple minutes so we can figure out what's going on with clouding, your cloud software, so we can see what that is. If you guys want to be online and work on it, great. But just make sure that you share your document with me, because I want to know that one, you created it, two, you're working on it. And now we're gonna make sure that you have files shared with me so that I can track your progress, okay? So when you're sharing your file, I know how far you are, how much you're doing, and how things are looking overall. It's gonna help me have some real information in real time, okay? So this is the accountability part of the class, where we're making sure that you guys are working on it and having some good traction in the project, okay? So you wanna make sure you share that first and foremost. All right, sounds good. Okay, guys, so if you feel like you want to log off and to work on it independently, you are free to do so. I will be available online till 12 o'clock, answering any questions, and you're good. If you feel like I got this under control, you got it under control, you want to work on it, go ahead and go for it, guys. You are now on independent work mode, and you're looking for your images and getting those ready for you there, okay? Again, project will be due Monday. And we'll be tracking your progress, everything and all. All right, guys, feel free to start working on it. And if you need to take a break, go ahead and do so. We are set and we are done. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.